Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. This is a podcast. Me and Zin, say hello, Zin.
Hello, Zin.
Proof of life has been acquired. We've got Fleet Week that we want to talk about. We've got 3.17.1. We've got some new vehicles that have been released, sort of. At least some of them have been released. Another one's getting released tomorrow at time of recording. We've got 3.17.2 we want to talk about. 3.18, the road to 4.0. There's much to talk about. But what do we know about that? A medium amount, and we're going to discuss what we know and what we don't know and what we think about things. So Fleet Week is currently ongoing, and that's a pretty big event. Star Citizen is free to play currently, and we've had a 3.17.1 patch. There's been a bit of instability with the patch, but overall it's pretty good. The 3.17.1 patch has been relatively stable. Fleet Week has gone it is going on. There's been a couple of little minor bugs and problems compared to the way that some Star Citizen can sometimes go, but largely Star Citizen seems to be doing really well. There's hundreds, if not, well, there's thousands and thousands of new accounts each day. Cloud Imperium seem to be having the biggest stress test and sort of largest amount of players that they've ever had concurrently at the moment, and people seem to be largely enjoying Fleet Week. So you've gone around the expo hall a bit. You've seen the sort of Javelin and the UE Navy fleet go around. What are you thinking about this year? Is there anything much new compared to last year? Are you enjoying it as much as you did last year? What's it like for you, Zin?
There's toilets on the Javelin.
That's okay. They are opening up more areas of the Javelin. So we've got the Javelin tour again this year. You can walk around a Javelin as it moves around the Stanton system. There's voice actors and there's sort of NPCs there and other players moving around, and you can sort of experience the internals of the Javelin, and they talk about what it's like to live on a Javelin. But they've opened up a few more areas and there's a few more props around. So there's a couple of sets of toilets, and that was unexpected to see them. And I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. This is a big old toilets for barracks. So it's a big set of toilets and shower rooms. I know it sounds silly, but yeah, it's there. It's more expansions to the Javelin. What else other than the more toilets?
I'd say it's pretty much the same. I was a bit disappointed that the venue was basically a carbon copy of the Toby. Was it the Toby Convention Centre? Tobin Convention Centre. I thought it was the Toby Convention Centre after you said it. So yeah, so it's very similar. It's exactly the same.
Well, externally, it's not exactly the same.
Yeah, but once you get into that main room, it's exactly the same. Not even the main room, the reception area.
Yeah, it's they reused some assets there. That's fine though, isn't it? You don't want them to have to redo a giant area just for the expo when that will do, or do you? Do you expect to see a sort of unique areas for the expo hall every time?
I would expect to see unique. At least to the planet, yeah. Like, it should be unique. It's like, what if they just got one contractor for building the expo halls, and this is what you get? That's all you get.
Well, why? If it works, if it ain't broke, just copy and paste it.
It feels cheap.
Okay, no, I think that's fair. What doesn't feel cheap is the incredibly long journey that it takes to get to the Vision Centre.
They've even sped up the shuttlecraft as well. Like, it goes faster. And it still takes ages to get there.
So I don't think people realise just how big the sort of area of floating platforms were. Like, there is a huge lattice of platforms there. And it takes ages to get to the Vision Centre. And yeah, so that will be interesting for missions and areas to visit around Crusader in the future. And the scope of Star Citizen and the sort of gas clouds and the visuals of it are just fantastic. They're genuinely amazingly good looking. Maybe a little bit too fiddly sometimes. Do you want to spend huge amounts of time on public transport all the time after you've done it for like the 30th time and you've realised that you've spent like 4 hours in your week just travelling on train on a planet? Probably not. But some people love that immersion. So, stuff at Fleet Week. Is there anything you've been excited about? Any of the manufacturers? You've been in the hall and gone, oh, that's really cool to see this particular ship? Or is it sort of like, as you said, more of the same? It's Fleet Week. They have the same sort of ships on sale. Maybe some new ones that have just come in the last year. But it's more of the same.
It's more of the same. I mean, it's nice always to be able to fly things for free, even if it is for a short period of time. I like the fact that Scorpius is coming in now. Like, that was a pretty cool ship to look forward to?
Yeah, so the Scorpius has been released in the 3.17.1 patch. It is a cool ship. Me and Zin were flying around in it recently. It is an X-Wing, 2-seater, agile heavy fighter. It's got a little movie turret. It's cool. It's going to get lots more development beyond its current release, but obviously they've gone, we want to release an X-Wing, Star Wars X-Wing in the Star Citizen universe. Bam, the Scorpius is it. And I think it's a lot of people's dream ship. Yeah, and it's certainly very cool. What did you think about the mule, Zin?
I think it's cute. I think it's really cute. Yeah. I like the idea of it.
So, for people that don't know, the Drake Mule is a new vehicle that's going to be released in Drake Defense Con, which is starting on the 28th. So, on Saturday, you'll be able to purchase the mule. Probably really good for a lifetime insurance token because it's a little tiny cargo vehicle and it can carry 6 carryable boxes, the ones you literally pick up with your hands, and it will be able to carry eventually when it's forklift and sort of rear area work. It will be able to carry some big crates as well and help you load and unload ships once we have the cargo refactor. But as Zin said, very cute.
As they also said in the Inside Star Citizen, if your ship can hold a rock, it can hold a mule.
Yeah, so suitable for a huge range of ships. It's really tiny. It's got big oversized wheels. It is cute is the word for it, isn't it?
It is.
It's like a Funko Pop of itself. It's sort of like it's a silly toy caricature of itself. It's interesting. I like more and more of these things in game. I always have a problem with sort of vehicles in the game at the moment. So ground vehicles, because we're just on the horizon of being able to use ground vehicles properly for missions and actually have them functionality. But we've been on that horizon for a few quarters now, and it's just sort of like, I love the idea of ground assaults and defending things using these vehicles, but at the moment, they just don't have enough function. I might as well just use my ship for pretty much everything, or just park closer. But potentially with that cargo refactor in 3.18, there'll be a lot more reasons to use little vehicles like this. And it's cute.
I mean, to be fair, the fact that the mule already can carry those, like, delivery mission size boxes, I think the mule should have been around a lot sooner.
Yeah. Fair point. A lot of people have been saying, actually, the mule is going to be super functional immediately when it goes drivable in the next couple of days. I suppose we'll have to mess around with it. I mean, it's going to be great in the sort of like Daymar Rally. I suspect there's going to be a mule class of race. Maybe you have to pick up cargo along the way, things like that. And that would be a silly thing to do. What else have we got? The Legionnaire. So this is a new concept ship, the Anvil Legionnaire. What did you think of it? Obviously, it's a little tiny boarding ship.
I don't know. I mean, I wasn't expecting it, so...
Yeah, I wasn't expecting the name, seeing that there's obviously the Aurora LN, which is the Aurora Legionnaire. They've just gone, that's a good name! Use it for this ship. And I wasn't expecting it either. I hadn't heard any rumours of it. Typically, I'll get like a leak or a rumour. Someone will send me an email and I go, ooh. But nothing at all for this one. And yeah, it's a very small, although compact is probably a better word, because it can have 8 Marines inside. Little boarding ship that's focused at ship-to-ship boarding. So it's got like a docking port, and then it can hack other ships' docking ports to like forcefully dock with them. And I really like that idea. I like those like assault ships. I just think it's because I desperately want that ship boarding and ship assault in Star Citizen, because how fun would Star Citizen be now if we could literally assault and capture ships?
Yeah. But surely it'll be the biggest ships with the docking ports, yeah?
Well, so lots of ships technically have docking ports, but yes, you'll want to assault larger ships.
Technically, doesn't the Cutlass have a docking?
The Cutlass Red certainly has spinny docking ports.
Yeah.
But again, I think typically they're supposed to be looking at, it's larger ships that will have docking ports, but then some smaller ships and the Cutlass Red and stuff want to dock with those larger docking ports easily in space.
Obviously, this is concept at the moment.
Yes, the Legionnaire, yeah, very much so.
And they are wanting to have shipboarding in the future. Does that mean that that's something they're actually focusing on now?
So they haven't said they're focusing specifically on shipboarding at the moment, but I think it's safe to say that it's probably something that they are working on to some extent, and it looks to me like they're working on shipboarding, and it sort of will come along just with other mechanics as they plough forward in the next few patches. At least I hope it's going to be like that. Do
you think that this is something that they're developing currently for Squadron 42?
Well, they have to have ship assaults in Squadron 42. It's sort of part of the game. However, the interesting thing with that is that they don't need the multiplayer aspect, and it can be in a lot more controlled and scripted environment in Squadron. So it's a very different sort of barrel of fish. They can have ship assaults happen at certain times, at certain damage, in much easier, more compact areas, or at least more controllable areas in Squadron. But when you move that into the persistent universe, that is a whole different sort of barrel of fish, because that can happen anywhere. That can happen at a billion different scales. That will happen with a load of different ships than in Squadron 42. So yes, I do think they're working on it for Squadron 42, if not already finished it. But I do think it takes a different form when you bring it into the persistent universe. I'm really excited to have that. Potentially, we need physicalized components in game before you can have true shipboarding, because you want to be able to disable ships, you want to be able to destroy the components, and then potentially have damage control where players are running around trying to repair their ship before they get murdered. Obviously, everything coming together is the most important thing for Star Citizen for me, feature-wise. And it's doing that slowly. Star Citizen is a long burn. Talking about long burns, the 3.17.2 patch is replacing the major patch for the end of Q2. So 3.18 is getting pushed out to Q3. Bam! They're knocking it back. Well, I suppose we should probably explain 3.18 and why it's getting pushed back before we explain 3.17.2. So 3.18 is going to require a huge amount of testing, so about 3 months, 2 to 3, potentially more months in testing before they release it, and they're going to start testing that pretty soon, because it's got a giant cargo refactor, it's got salvage, and hugely importantly, tech-wise, it's got the full persistence. It's got stream persistence, so you can have ships and items and objects save their location in-game and come back and get them later. That is so important tech-wise, as they push towards server meshing and all that sort of jazz, that it's going to need a lot of testing. It's going to break a load of things. It's going to be hellish for the first few weeks of that testing in Evocati, almost certainly. Evocati members will probably be nodding their head, yup. And it's still going to be like horrible to stress test probably during like first wave PTU. It needs a long amount of testing. So because of that, they're going to release a meaty 3.17.2 patch at the end of Q2. Now, do you think that's appropriate, Ian? Do you think that, well, actually, I'm expecting these major patches each year, the fact they're pushing it back isn't really appropriate? Or do you think, well, actually, they do need to get this tech done now?
I think they should do what they need to do.
Okay, you're surprisingly understanding with them.
Well, that's the thing. I think it's a bit silly of them to go, we're going to have 4 patches every year, regardless, and we're going to stick to that. And it's like, that doesn't... especially from a company who's very much it'll be done when it's done.
Yes. There's a bit of disparity there, because they're a bit erratic with sometimes it's done when it's done, and sometimes they just push it out.
Yeah, I'd rather they, like they said, don't make promises and just do what needs to be done to get it done.
A greater good.
Yeah.
I think I'm with you on that. They it doesn't matter that they've called this meaty QT patch 3.17.2. That's another way I'd argue it. It's a light version of 3.18, and they've just renamed the patches a bit.
I mean, to be fair, if they hadn't have fucked up their patch naming in the beginning... Yes,
that's an interesting one as well, isn't it? They do redefine things just by terminology.
Yeah, so they don't want to call anything 4.0 until it's got pyro in it.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting thing as well. So, before we talk about 3.17.2's contents, the road to 4.0, the road to pyro that we're currently on, I was a bit confused about what the hell's happening at the end of this year, because Cloud Imperium have said, well, we're planning to get, if possible, an early server meshing and pyro build at the end of the year.
For testing, yeah.
For testing. But they've also said something about 3.19, and it sounds like that build will be called 3.19. And once that's iterated on and in a good state and released and refined, that will be 4.0. So are they having a 3.19 patch with some early tech in, then refining it for 4.0, is 3.19 its own separate patch? I'm a bit confused what's happening for the end of this year.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah, I suppose we'll find out more details as we get closer, and the important thing is the features that are coming rather than the names of the patches. So at the end of the year, in testing for Evocati and potentially on the PTU for more backers, we'll have a early server meshing build and pyro build. That is the happy goal. That is the sort of the best possible timeline, and I'm really hoping we see that, because that'll be big for Star Citizen. It's super important. Cloud Imperium are making a huge amount of money this year. It's going to be a record-breaking year again, and if they get some wins as well this year, as they're getting their studios, sort of new studios and sort of expansion set up, and then next year they can hit the sort of ground running with a load of new stuff getting added to the game, making it a lot more mainstream, that'll be fantastic. But anyway, let's come back to this 3.17.2 patch. I sort of went off on a massive tangent on end of Q2, so ended June, most likely. They're adding this meaty patch with Rex Reclaimers, so new points of interest on ground and in space. And as part of that, they're releasing the AI nav mesh, which is going to allow for AI to move around areas and sort of move in between and on different floors and in and out of the reclaimers. So in the future, that will allow NPCs to run around and come out of bunkers, into bunkers, get off ships, go back onto ships, run all the way to or fly to another landing zone. It's how they move around the game. But this first implementation of the update of nav mesh, AI nav mesh, is going to allow them to move around these new reclaimer sites, and then they add it to more and more and more in future patches. What do you think of that, Zin? Do you think that's actually going to be any new tangible gameplay with AI around these areas, or is it just going to be, well, yeah, they say they've got AI nav mesh, but they're just sort of standing in doorways and they're standing in the ship, and you wouldn't notice? Well, that's a possibility, isn't it?
I hope it's good, but yeah, that's quite a possibility. It might work, it might not work. Hopefully it's good and it adds more content, but... Yeah,
we obviously need it in game in the future to allow them to move around the verse and make sort of landing areas like Hurston or whatever, Lorville. You want to see ships flying up and going down and all that sort of stuff to make the area look busy. But the worry is that you go, yeah, this new tech. What new tech? I wouldn't know that there was any new tech. There's just some NPCs on a ship like there are on other ships sometimes. Like, meh. So hopefully that will actually be good. We'll talk about that in a lot more detail once we see it. What else was there? There was some new stations with their sort of new stations at Lagrange points, sort of filling out the areas where there aren't stations but should be. I wish there was more stuff to do at these stations. Like there were missions generated more readily at them and like more reasons to visit them. Do you know what I mean?
Kind of.
Because the only reason I go to a Lagrange point now is if it's near another mission that I want to go to, I'll save it as my like spawn location.
Or if you've running out of fuel, you can't make a jump.
Yeah. I wonder if there will ever be a situation where I'm playing and I would genuinely call a Starfarer to come and give me fuel from someone I don't know.
Maybe in Pyro.
But I think, and don't get me wrong here, Zin, that I'd be able to manage my fuel a bit better than be a dum-dum. I'm gonna immediately run out of fuel, aren't I, now that I've said that? It's gonna come out with a jump point and be out of fuel. And go, okay, yeah, fair enough. Illegal deliveries. So they're just expanding out some of their delivery missions with illegal versions of those missions. I hope they're going to pay really well.
I know you've got the mule now as well.
Yeah, that's going to help you clear out potentially some delivery missions more easily and clear out those bunkers of loot and stuff like that.
I mean, the mule is basically designed for illegal delivery missions.
Yeah, why not?
Hence the name.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. A fair point. I think that they build a few missions with that in mind, and hopefully they will. That would be pretty cool. I suppose we have to see what we got. I do want to see these illegal missions paying a lot more. I want players to want to do illegal delivery missions. I want them to want to be criminals, but not necessarily focused PvP murder criminals. I want them to go, oh, that's a bit sneaky. I can do this, make some money. Hopefully it won't get detected. But if I do, players are going to be coming after me. And that provides a lot more gameplay to other people. Yeah, I think that the risk reward should be there, so there should be a greater reward for a higher risk. Do you think that's fair, or? I
mean, I won't be taking the illegal delivery missions.
Not for me. That's fair enough. What about, and have you heard much about the Siege of Orison?
I mean, I've heard about it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So, Cloud Imperium have been testing this new dynamic event called the Siege of Orison, which is at Crusader on the floating platforms, and it's a big old event, which focuses mostly on FPS, where there's a bit of ship flying and traveling between floating platforms on shuttles. But as we were saying earlier, there's a lot of these floating platforms around Crusader, and this takes a few of them, and you can travel between them while you're trying to take out sort of Ninetales pirates and their bosses on these platforms. And this is a major event that you're going to want to do with a lot of people. It's similar sort of style to Xenothreat, where people can get involved, join up together, and sort of help the assault. And it will take a good amount of time. It will take a long old while to siege these platforms, to take them back, and it's pretty difficult. You're gonna want people to heal you. You're gonna want people to help you. Did you see much actually of any gameplay or hear any of the bugs or anything?
Nope.
Okay, so it's been in testing. It needs a bit of love. There are lots of bugs and problems with like enemies seeing you. Well, they shouldn't be able to see you and shooting you when you're like behind cover. And there's problems with sort of performance and things like that. But there's also problems with choke points and sort of like the mechanics of it. So it needs a bit of refinement. But I do think it's something they can quite easily get in a 3.17.2 patch now. And I do think it's going to be a pretty fun sort of event. Do you like some of the FPS stuff in Star Citizen, or do you prefer the ship stuff more? What's your sort of preference here?
I have no preference. Anything, just as long as it's not PvP.
Anything as long as it's not PvP.
Yeah. I like the idea of there being a new area, because like currently all the current FPS things are kind of more or less in the same area. Obviously, you can do cave stuff, but you go to one of those locations and it's like, oh, help the security forces at this location. You go there, it's a copy-paste of another area, exactly the same.
One of the things I'm looking forward to the Siege is, when playing with you, is that we can probably get away with doing medical gameplay there properly. We can actually be evacing and dragging people and then healing them while they're doing the Siege. Although, when I think about that, my brain thinks I'm Reinhardt from Overwatch. Like, put out a big shield as walk forward while you drag them back.
I'm sure we'll have big shields at some point.
Well, they're supposed to have deployable shields at some point. But they're smaller. But I like the idea of a little power shield that I can use to help drag people back. But again, I am a Reinhardt player. So yeah, really looking forward to the Siege of Orison. And I do think it's going to be a good laugh. But as I said, it needs a bit of refinement and love. And I suspect we'll see some play tests of that. Now, do we think that Cloud Imperium are going to realistically be able to get in 3.18? Are they going to be able to get cargo, refactor, salvage, and full persistence in? What's your feeling here?
I don't know.
That is a fair enough opinion.
Like, I no idea. I don't know the sort of coding that needs to be put in. I don't know how long it's going to take them. I don't know where they are already. But
you did not say, no, there's no way they can't do it, which is good.
I don't know that. I couldn't say that.
Yeah, but it's sort of like, you don't know. That's fair enough.
It's possible they can, it's possible they can't.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I'd like to think that because of the steps that they're taking, they think that they can, at least, to some degree.
Yes. So it is a target. Let's be clear with that. But from the stuff we saw from Chris Roberts talking about from the recent letter from the chairman, it does look like they are very much focused on this full persistence tech, getting server meshing out, get the road to Pyro. Obviously, cargo and salvage has been worked on for a while. I do genuinely think they can get it in the 3.18 patch. I am going to believe and trust them that they can do this, but afford them a little bit of extra leeway, because that's what I've always done with Star Citizen. I love the project. I love what they're doing. Yes, it's a slow burn. Yes, sometimes there are delays. Often there are delays as well. And I'm sort of happy to afford them the leeway to do that. And as I said, you seem to be quite sort of reasonable to them as well. But I think one of the reasons you're sort of like, yeah, it's sort of okay, even if it's delayed and that sort of stuff, that sort of happens, is because you've potentially been with the project a shorter period of time than I have.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's all we were going to talk about. I think that's it really for the podcast. I'm looking forward to Drake Defense Con, which is coming tomorrow, 28th. So you should go to Drake Defense Con. It's at the Dunlow Spaceport rather than at the Vision Centre, so it's much easier and quicker to travel to. And then you can get all your Drake mules that you want and use them as lifetime insurance tokens to buy other ships with lifetime insurance. Potentially. Obviously, stuff could change, so be aware of that. Anyway, say goodbye, Zin.
Goodbye, Zin.
Thanks very much for watching, guys. You take care. Please give us any more topics you'd like us to cover in future podcasts. Give us feedback. We appreciate it. Support the channel with that subscribe button and give money. Or is there a give money button? Click that. Find one. Give that. Click on that. And thanks. Have a great May and June. Peace. I saw NordVPN once. I was in a forest, late at night. I'd got lost, and then I heard it, an unearthly sound as if the wind was talking to me. NordVPN.com/BoredGamer. Then I saw him run at me. He was so free, almost as if he could be anywhere in the world. America, France, Australia. He was so secure, protected in layers of encryption that I could not even fathom. So majestic. Well, I heard that NordVPN was as big as a bear and could kick your head off. I've also heard that, which is why, just in case, I go to nordvpn.com/BoredGamer to appease the beast. You can find links to that down below. If you're looking for a new god, why not try NordVPN? Every month we have a ship giveaway. This time for May, to celebrate Star Citizen Alpha 3.17's release, we're giving away 3 prizes to 3 separate winners. An Origin 100i luxury starter ship, a consolidated Outland Nomad versatile freighter, and an Aegis Avenger Titan multi-role ship. They all come with lifetime insurance and access to play Star Citizen. To be in for a chance of winning one of those 3 prizes, just comment on any of my videos made during May. More details in the description below. Thank you so much to everyone that watches, shares, comments, and likes my videos. It really does help the channel grow. Be sure to subscribe for more content. If you would like to go to the extra mile in supporting the channel, there is Patreon links below. There's a join button under my videos as well on YouTube that makes you a highly elite channel member with some extra perks and exclusive content. There's also the thanks button, which straight up gives us money, and you can leave a highlighted comment. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great May 2022.